Martha Merrick, born in Vienna in 1897, faced early orphanhood and found solace in the care of a modest family. Her life took an unexpected turn in 1919 when, at the age of 22, she encountered Mortis Fritsch, a wealthy 74-year-old department store magnate, marking the beginning of a romantic liaison despite their significant age gap. Under Fritsch's patronage, Martha ventured into the opulent world through lavish finishing schools in France and England. However, her heart veered towards engineer Emil Merrick, with whom she engaged in a secret affair, complicating her ties with Fritsch. Following Fritsch's death in August of 1923, Martha inherited his entire estate nestled in the Vienna woods. The subsequent years saw her union with Emil. Their marital bliss, however, was short-lived as financial mismanagement depleted their newfound wealth within 2 years. The couple's notoriety soared in 1925 when Emil suffered a horrific injury, losing a leg in a woodcutting accident, suspiciously timed after Martha had secured an insurance policy on him. The ensuing legal battle, marred by allegations of self-harm and bribery, captivated the public's attention. Despite the Merrick's acquittal of insurance fraud charges, they were convicted of bribing officials, resulting in a brief incarceration. The public sentiment largely favored the captivating Martha, perceiving the insurance company's actions as attempts to evade payment through legal maneuvers. Eventually, the insurance company, having lost its legal battle, opted for an out-of-court settlement, compensating Martha and Emil handsomely. However, once the media frenzy died down and their fortune dwindled, coupled with the failure of Emil's entrepreneurial endeavors as an inventor, the Merricks found themselves facing financial hardship once more. The insurance company disbursed 30% of the insured amount, yet half of this was consumed by legal expenses. Depleted once more, the Merricks sought respite in Algiers for a period, where the cost of living proved more affordable. By this juncture, they had welcomed 2 children into their fold. Tragedy struck anew when Emil Merrick, long plagued by illness following his leg amputation, passed away unexpectedly on July 31, 1932, thrusting Martha back into the public eye. Concern escalated when the children exhibited similar symptoms, culminating in the untimely demise of their 7-year-old daughter, shortly after Martha had secured a life insurance policy on their behalf. Despite mounting suspicion, Martha adeptly portrayed herself as a grieving widow and mother, garnering widespread sympathy and financial support. Adding to her windfall, her aunt, Suzanne Lowenstein, named Martha her sole heir before passing away in 1934, under circumstances mirroring those of Emil and her deceased daughter. With the inheritance exhausted, Martha ensnared tailorer Felicitas Kittenberger as another victim. Persuaded to take out a life insurance policy naming Martha as beneficiary, Kittenberger met a swift demise, prompting her son to raise concerns and initiate legal proceedings. Subsequent investigations and exhumations unveiled Martha's sinister use of the toxic Zelio paste, freely accessible at the time, to poison all 4 victims. In a further bid for ill-gotten gains, Martha orchestrated a fictitious theft of valuable paintings, leading to her arrest. This publicized event prompted Kittenberger's son to voice his suspicions, catalyzing a thorough examination of the bodies, which confirmed thallium poisoning. Fortunately, Martha's surviving son, Alphonse, was identified as another intended victim of poisoning through insurance schemes, but was spared from harm. During her court proceedings, Martha Merrick feigned seizures and blindness, necessitating her transport to the courtroom in a specially adapted chair. Despite her theatrics, she received a death sentence from the jury on May 19, 1938. The court anticipated that Merrick, being a woman, would follow Austrian tradition where the federal president typically commuted such sentences to life imprisonment. However, with Austria's annexation to the German Reich under Adolf Hitler's regime, any hope for clemency was dashed. On December 6, 1938, Merrick met her fate as the inaugural individual to face the newly imported guillotine from Berlin to Vienna. Harry Powers, born Herman Drenthe in 1893 in the Netherlands, made his way to the United States in 1910. initially settling in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, before eventually relocating to West Virginia in 1926. In 1927, he entered into matrimony with Luella Strother, who owned a farm and grocery store. Their union began in response to Lonely Hearts advertisements placed by Luella. However, despite being married, Powers continued to publish his own Lonely Hearts ads. His solicitations attracted numerous responses, with postal records revealing an influx of 10 to 20 letters per day. Powers proceeded to construct a garage and basement at his residence in Quiet Dell, later revealed as the grim scene of the murders for which he was convicted. Under the pseudonym Cornelius Orvin Pearson, Powers initiated correspondence with Astor Eicher, a widowed mother of 3 in Park Ridge, Illinois. On June 23, 1931, he visited Eicher and her children, Greta, Harry, and Annabelle, and subsequently departed with Eicher for several days. During this time, Elizabeth Abernathy cared for the children under the assumption that Pearson would retrieve them, as per a letter received. However, when he arrived, he sent the children to the bank to withdraw money from Eicher's account, but failed due to a forged signature on the check. Ignoring concerns from worried neighbors, Powers claimed the family was on a European trip and swiftly left with the children. Later, Powers courted Dorothy Pressler Lemke from Northborough, Massachusetts, another Lonely Hearts advertiser seeking love. Convincing her to marry him, he accompanied her to Iowa and persuaded her to withdraw $4,000. Unbeknownst to Lemke, Powers diverted her trunks to Fairmont, West Virginia, under the alias Cornelius O. Pearson. Astor Eicher and her children and Dorothy Lemke vanished without explanation. In August of 1931, police commenced an investigation into the disappearances, focusing on Pearson emptying Eicher's house. Love letters discovered led them to Quiet Dell, where Pearson lived as Harry Powers with his wife. Powers was arrested, and a search of his Quiet Dell residence revealed a crime scene beneath Pearson's garage. Bloody clothing, hair, a burned book, and a child's small bloody footprint were found. An eyewitness informed the sheriff about a recently filled-in ditch on Powers' property, leading to the discovery of the bodies of Astor Eicher, her children, and Dorothy Lemke. Autopsy results indicated that the 2 girls and their mother were strangled, while the young boy suffered fatal head injuries from a hammer. Lemke, the last victim uncovered, was also strangled with a belt still around her neck. Love letters found in Powers' car trunk revealed a pattern of deceit, indicating his intent to steal money and commit murder, mirroring his actions with his most recent victims. Shortly after his arrest, Powers sustained 2 black eyes and bruising, reportedly the result of a fall down the staircase during his interrogation. On September 20th, 1931, a lynch mob made an attempt to seize Powers from the jail, but was dispersed using fire hoses and tear gas. Following this incident, Powers was transferred to the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville. His 5-day trial unfolded at the local opera house due to the substantial number of spectators. Numerous witnesses presented evidence found in Powers' residence, his interactions with the victims, and his handling of their luggage. Powers himself even testified during the trial. However, on December 12, 1931, he received a death sentence, and he was executed by hanging on March 18, 1932. Henriette Caillou, originally born Henriette Raynouard on December 5, 1874, entered into matrimony at the age of 19 with Leo Clairty, a writer 12 years her senior. Their union resulted in the birth of 2 children. In 1907, a romantic involvement with Joseph Caillou began, despite both parties still being married at the time. The complexities of divorce ensued, leading to Henriette officially separating from Clairty in 1908. Joseph Caillou faced challenges in dissolving his marriage, but eventually succeeded, culminating in their marriage in October of 1911. Henriette professed to have discovered the most complete happiness in her second marriage, as their combined wealth, amounting to approximately 1.5 million francs, positioned them among the affluent couples in France. This financial standing afforded them a lifestyle of great comfort, as she articulated. Despite their prosperity, the circumstances surrounding their union invited intense public scrutiny, particularly from political adversaries, who seized upon the situation to launch accusations of moral corruption against the couple. During his tenure as the Minister of Finance, Joseph Caillou faced vehement opposition from his political adversaries. Among them was Gaston Calmet, the editor of Le Figaro newspaper, who served as a harsh critic. Calmet came into possession of a letter belonging to J. Caillou, adhering to the journalistic norms of the time, which suggested that the letter should not be made public. The contents of the letter seemingly indicated Caillou's involvement in orchestrating the rejection of a tax bill while publicly feigning support for it. Calmet chose to publish the letter precisely when J. Caillou, in his role as Minister of Finance, was striving to pass a progressive taxation law through the French Senate. The revelation of the letter had a profound detrimental impact on J. Caillou's reputation, triggering significant political turmoil. Henriette Caillou was convinced that Gaston Calmet would disclose additional private letters, revealing her intimate relationship with Joseph Caillou during his first marriage. Fearing irreparable damage to her husband's reputation, she believed the only recourse was for him to challenge Calmet to a duel, even though such an act would inadvertently shatter both their lives. On the evening of March 16, 1914, Madame Caillou, draped in a voluminous fur coat, with her hands encased in a fur muff, entered the office of Le Figaro. Inquiring about Gaston Calmet, she was informed of his imminent return within an hour and chose to wait. Around 6 p.m., she was ushered into Calmet's office. When asked about the purpose of her visit, Calmet was unaware. Without delay, Henriette Caillou discharged 6 shots from a Browning automatic pistol into Calmet's abdomen, inflicting mortal wounds. Remarkably, Henriette Caillou made no attempt to flee. Adjourning newspaper workers swiftly apprehended her, summoning both a doctor and the police. Despite her demand not to be touched, she tried to defend herself, lamenting the perceived absence of justice in France, only to be sternly instructed to remain silent. Refusing transport in a police van, she insisted on being driven to the police headquarters by her chauffeur in her own car, still parked outside. The police acceded to her request, and upon arrival at the headquarters, she was formally charged. Gaston Calmet succumbed to his injuries 6 hours after the shooting. Following extensive publicity and a thorough investigation, Henriette Caillou's trial commenced at the Paris court on July 20, 1914, seizing the forefront of French news. The proceedings, marked by a sexual scandal and a crime of passion involving a high society French lady, garnered twice as much attention in Le Temps as the concurrent July crisis, leading up to the outbreak of the First World War, even just 3 days before hostilities commenced. The trial, conducted within the relatively lenient legal and procedural constraints of the court, unfolded as if meticulously designed for dramatic effect. It had the potential to create a spectacle more riveting than any theatrical production, depending on the nature of the case. At the time, public opinion on the assassination diverged along political lines. The left contended that Calmet's character assassination had driven Madame Caillou to temporary insanity, while the right portrayed her as a ruthless murderer acting on her husband's request to silence a critic. Notably, President Raymond Poincaré submitted a disposition at the trial, an unprecedented occurrence in the criminal proceedings. Many participants were influential figures in French society, adding to the trial's dramatic intensity. Henriette's husband heightened the suspense by threatening to release affidavits suggesting that Poincaré was orchestrating the press campaign against him. If found guilty, Madame Caillou faced potential sentences ranging from life imprisonment at hard labor to death. Conviction with the jury convinced of extenuating circumstances could lead to a 5-year hard labor sentence. Or, as it happened, a verdict of not guilty if extreme extenuating circumstances were acknowledged. To secure her acquittal on July 28, 1914, Henriette portrayed herself as a victim of overpowering passion beyond her control, attributing her actions to uncontrollable impulses that caused her to lose control over her own conduct. Stella Christofi entered the world in Cyprus, born into a Greek family. Raised in a secluded and petite village, she lacked any formal schooling. Christofi eventually wed and bore a son named Stavros. Her husband, among the most impoverished in the community, sustained the family through meager earnings from a small olive grove they possessed. In 1925, Christofi faced arrest and accusations of murdering her mother-in-law by forcefully inserting a lit torch down her throat following heated arguments between the two women. Reports vary. Some claim she was acquitted, while others suggest the court deemed her actions a result of severe provocation, leading to a decision against imposing criminal penalties. Afterwards, her son Stavros departed the village for Nicosia, where he secured employment as a waiter. By 1941, having amassed sufficient savings, he journeyed to Britain, eventually making London his home. There, he secured a position as a wine waiter at Café de Paris, an esteemed establishment in London's West End. Stavros tied the knot with Hella Bleicher, a German-born fashion model, and together they welcomed 3 children into their lives. In 1953, Christofi traveled to London to reunite with her son Stavros after a 12-year separation. However, adjusting to her new life proved challenging, leading to frequent conflicts with her daughter-in-law. Christofi harbored resentment towards the upbringing of her grandchildren, who were being raised without much consideration for their Greek heritage. She often criticized Hella's parenting decisions and would erupt into fits of anger. By July of 1954, Stavros and Hella decided it was best for Christofi to leave. Hella planned to take the children to Germany for a visit, while Stavros intended to persuade his mother to return to Cyprus. Sensing the impending separation, Christofi concocted a plan to eliminate Hella, believing it would allow her to raise the children according to her own beliefs. On the evening of July 29, 1954, while Stavros was away at work and the children were asleep, Christofi encountered Hella in the kitchen as she went about her tasks. Without warning, Christofi struck Hella on the back of her head with an ash pan from the boiler, rendering her unconscious. She then proceeded to strangle Hella to death with a scarf, removing her wedding ring in the process. Afterwards, Christofi dragged Hella's lifeless body to the back garden and attempted to cremate it by dousing it with paraffin and igniting it. The flames caught the attention of their neighbor, John Young, who happened to be walking his dog nearby. Despite witnessing Christofi burning what appeared to be a human figure, Young assumed it was a mannequin, and, seeing Christofi tending to the fire, thought nothing of it, seeing no cause for concern. The blaze quickly escalated beyond Christofi's control, prompting her, despite her limited English proficiency, to dash into the street seeking assistance. After some searching, she encountered a couple sitting in a parked car near a railway station. Frantically, she pleaded, "Please come, fire burning, children sleeping." Upon arriving at the scene, the couple promptly contacted the fire brigade, who, upon discovering Hella's lifeless body in the garden, alerted the police. The police initiated an investigation and uncovered damning evidence implicating Christofi. Examination of Hella's body revealed telltale signs of strangulation, while hastily cleaned bloodstains and paraffin-soaked materials were discovered strewn across the kitchen floor. Additionally, John Young, the neighbor who had observed Christofi tending to the fire, came forward to provide crucial information to the authorities. Moreover, the absence of Hella's wedding ring did not go unnoticed. It was later located in Christofi's bedroom, with no plausible explanation offered by her to account for its presence. Christofi was apprehended under suspicion of murder and faced interrogation. Her account during questioning depicted a scene of awakening to the smell of smoke, discovering Hella ablaze downstairs, attempting to douse the flames, and finding Hella unresponsive. Subsequently, Christofi was charged and detained at HM Prison, Holloway. Her trial commenced at the Old Bailey on October 28, 1954. Despite the defense's plea of insanity, the jury dismissed it, ultimately delivering a guilty verdict. Mr. Justice Devlin sentenced Christofi to death. Efforts for clemency saw limited traction. Notably, executioner Albert Pierpoint remarked in his autobiography that Christofi's case failed to attract significant media attention or sympathy due to the lack of glamour compared to other figures like Ruth Ellis. Christofi's final request for a Greek Christian Orthodox cross in the execution chamber was granted, remaining until the room's dismantling in 1967. Even her son, Stavros, distanced himself, expressing an inability to forgive her. On December 13, 1954, Christofi met her fate at Holloway Prison, where Albert Pierpoint and his assistant Harry Allen carried out her execution.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing by clicking the red subscribe button below. And don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support means the world to us. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.